Have you ever felt like history classes only scratch the surface of who actually shaped the world? Sure, we know the usual names: Einstein, Newton, Da Vinci. But what about the brilliant minds whose names didn't make it into mainstream textbooks? What if some of the most groundbreaking thinkers, scientists, and artists came from places you'd least expect? Like Poland. Today, we're diving into 10 incredible Polish minds you've probably never heard of, but who left a legacy that changed our lives in ways you might not even realize. And if you find yourself loving these kinds of deep dives into forgotten genius, consider supporting us through channel membership. It helps us keep making content that tells the stories that history books forget. Let's begin with a man whose name is etched into the very language of mathematics: Stefan Banach. Born in 1892, Banach wasn't your typical prodigy. He didn't attend a prestigious university right away, and much of his early education was self-directed. One day in a park in Krakow, he was overheard passionately discussing math problems with a friend. A local professor, who just happened to be walking by, was so impressed, he invited Banach into the academic world. What followed was one of the most influential careers in 20th century mathematics. Banach essentially created an entirely new field called functional analysis, and the structures known as Banach spaces remain foundational in physics, computer science, and economics today. It's hard to overstate how revolutionary his work was, especially when you consider it all started with an overheard conversation on a bench. Fast forward to the 20th century and you'll find another Polish-born genius, Maria Siemionow, a surgeon and scientist who redefined the boundaries of modern medicine. In 2008, she led the first near-total face transplant performed in the United States. Just think about the complexity of that for a moment. It wasn't just about replacing tissue, it was about restoring identity, expression, dignity. But Siemionow's accomplishments go far beyond one surgery. She also pioneered techniques in nerve regeneration and immunological tolerance, helping reduce the risk of rejection in transplant patients. Born in Krotoshin, Poland, she trained rigorously in both Europe and the US, and her work continues to inspire the next generation of reconstructive surgeons. Behind the operating table, there's a story of grit, compassion, and scientific precision that deserves so much more recognition. And then there's Józef Rotblat, a man who worked on the Manhattan Project, only to walk away from it, a move that would define the rest of his life. When he joined the project, he believed it was necessary to counter Nazi Germany. But once it became clear that the Nazis wouldn't develop nuclear weapons, he left the program entirely, driven by conscience rather than ambition. From then on, he dedicated himself to nuclear disarmament, co-founding the Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, a platform that brought together scientists from across political divides to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1995, and yet, most people outside scientific circles have never heard of him. Rotblat reminds us that true greatness often means choosing ethics over fame. From science, let's move to the haunting beauty of art. Magdalena Abakanowicz wasn't just a sculptor. She was a force of nature. Born in 1930, she lived through the trauma of World War II and the oppression of the communist regime in post-war Poland. Her art, massive organic textile structures known as abakans, broke every convention of what sculpture was supposed to be. Later, she created haunting installations of headless, armless human figures, often in large groups, evoking themes of identity, power, and vulnerability. These figures appear in cities all over the world, silent, still, unsettling. They seem to ask, who are we when stripped of labels, when history forgets us? Abakanowicz gave form to trauma and silence, creating a universal language out of cloth and bronze. Now let's leave Earth entirely, literally. In 1992, Aleksander Wolszczan discovered the first confirmed exoplanets, planets outside our solar system. This might not sound groundbreaking today, when we know of thousands, but back then, it was a scientific earthquake. Wolszczan discovered these planets orbiting a pulsar, essentially a dead star, using radio wave patterns. What he proved was that planetary systems are not unique to our sun, and that the universe is filled with other worlds. The discovery cracked open a new era in astronomy. Born in Szczecinek, Poland, and later working in both Poland and the US, Wolszczan continues to inspire the hunt for alien worlds, and maybe, one day, alien life. While we're on the topic of saving the world, let's not forget Hilary Koprowski, a virologist whose name is far less known than Jonas Salk or Albert Sabin, but who arguably made equally important contributions to vaccine science. In fact, Koprowski developed the first effective oral polio vaccine before Sabin's version became more widely adopted. He tested it successfully in Africa and helped immunize millions. Beyond polio, Koprowski was a key figure in virology research for decades, even as he remained somewhat in the shadow of others. His legacy is especially powerful today, as we reflect on the global importance of vaccine science in the 21st century. Now let's shift to a man who revolutionized the way we study people. Bronisław Malinowski, often considered the father of modern anthropology. Before Malinowski, anthropologists often studied cultures from afar through second-hand reports. Malinowski changed all that. During World War I, he found himself stuck in the Trobriand Islands of Papua New Guinea. Rather than sit idle, he immersed himself in the local culture, living with the people, learning their language, participating in their rituals. From this came the method of participant observation, now a cornerstone of social science. His work emphasized the importance of understanding people on their own terms, rather than judging them through a colonial or Western lens. Malinowski made anthropology human. Let's not overlook philosophy. Józef Tischner, a Catholic priest and philosopher, became a leading intellectual voice during Poland's Solidarity movement in the 20th and 1000. While most political philosophers focused on systems, laws, and revolutions, Tischner looked inward, toward conscience, dignity, and freedom of thought. He merged Catholic theology with existentialist and phenomenological traditions, helping people navigate moral uncertainty in a time of great political upheaval. His writings brought both spiritual and intellectual clarity to a country yearning for change, making him a rare figure respected by both believers and secular thinkers. In the world of music, Grażyna Bacewicz shattered ceilings. Born in 1909, she was a gifted violinist and composer at a time when women were largely ignored in classical music circles. She wrote string quartets, symphonies, and concertos that were complex, emotionally rich, and daring in their modernism. She drew from both Polish folk traditions and European avant-garde styles, creating a sound that was distinctly her own. Her music was performed across Europe, and she received numerous awards. But like so many women in history, her name faded into the background. It's time we brought it back to the foreground. And finally, we arrive at Marian Mazur, a brilliant yet underappreciated figure in the field of cybernetics, the science of control systems, which underpins everything from computers to robotics. Mazur developed theories about autonomous systems, anticipating ideas that would later become central to artificial intelligence. While much of the Western world looked to Norbert Wiener as the father of cybernetics, Mazur quietly built his own influential school of thought in Poland, despite political and institutional barriers. His work remains relevant today in fields ranging from engineering to organizational theory. So there you have it, 10 incredible minds from Poland whose stories remain far too hidden. They reshaped our world, quietly with brilliance, courage, and deep humanity. From mathematics to medicine, from space to sculpture, these individuals remind us that greatness isn't always loud, and genius doesn't always wear a famous name. If this journey through hidden history resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our channel membership. Your support helps us keep telling the untold stories of people who made the world better, often without ever asking for credit. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your mind open and your curiosity alive.